Yes, please be seated. So, good morning, everyone. We can do a little bit better than that, I'm sure. Good morning, everyone. It's a wonderful day. Morning. Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, Honorable Robert Montague, the Minister of Transport and Mining, Her Excellency, Miss Laurie Peters, the Canadian High Commissioner. Her Excellency, Miss Laurie Peters, the Canadian High Commissioner to Jamaica, Mr. Juan Jose Gonzalez, the Mexican Ambassador to Jamaica, Mrs. Audrey Sewell, my boss and the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation in the Office of the Prime Minister, Mr. Alwyn Hayes, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Transport and Mining, Honorable William Shaguri, Chairman of the Airports Authority of Jamaica, Mr. Audley Dietrich, President of the Airports Authority of Jamaica, Mr. Paul B. Scott, the Chairman of the DBJ and also the Chairman of the NMIA Enterprise Team, Mr. Raul Revoleta, I hope I got that right, the Chief Executive Officer of Aeroportario del Pacifico, SAB, the CV, affectionately called GAP, and will be henceforth referred to as GAP. Other partners and stakeholders, specially invited guests, members of the media, again, a very, very good morning to you. It is indeed a good morning as we meet here to witness the historic signing of the concession agreement between the Airports Authority of Jamaica and GAP. I am Milverton Reynolds, and I am going to be your master of ceremony. Of course, I'm with the Development Bank of Jamaica, whose mandate is really to facilitate and promote economic growth, national development, and an enabling economic environment in Jamaica. And we do so by providing businesses and government with appropriate financing, technical support, public-private partnerships, and privatization solutions. As the agency responsible for implementing the Government of Jamaica's privatization and public-private partnerships program, the Development Bank of Jamaica is extremely pleased to bring to the market another successful PPP. And I would expect you to this. We are equally proud of our record of facilitating private sector investment in the development of world-class infrastructure in keeping with the government's economic growth strategy. And indeed, the NMIA PPP join others in our portfolio, including the Kingston Container Terminal, the Sangster International Airport, and the North Coast Highway, which are all excellent vehicles of unlocking the value of assets, reducing debt, and I'm sure if the Minister of Finance was here, he'll be happy to hear this, reducing debt and mobilizing local and foreign divestment and foreign direct investment in our economy. Having guided the process in a transparent, accountable, and professional manner, we extend a very, very, very warm welcome to GAP and look forward to the improvements that we are confident will come at the Norman Manley International Airport. Ladies and gentlemen, the government's PPP program could not be a success without the strong commitment of the government of Jamaica. Our Minister of Transport and Mining, the Honorable Robert Montague, has been a guiding hand throughout the process, and I would now like to invite him to come forward and to deliver his opening remarks. Please welcome Minister Montague.
Thank you very much, Mr. Master of Ceremonies. Honorable Prime Minister, ambassadors and high commissioners, representatives from GAP, and I won't make the mistake of trying to twist my tongue around words that I cannot pronounce. Let me also acknowledge P.B. Scott and the permanent secretaries, specially invited guest board members. Ladies and gentlemen, a very pleasant good morning. Today is an historic day because the critical role of the aviation sector to tourism and the service sectors has made clear the need for modernization and development of our airports many years ago. Through a thorough analysis, the government decided that privatization was the best available option for mobilizing the considerable resources that would be required to achieve our objective. As a small island developing state that is highly dependent on tourism and trade, airports are strategic assets and therefore demand a significant measure of oversight and control. The Norman Manley International Airport has played a critical role in the economic development of Jamaica and has served as the premier gateway to the nation's capital for many years. The government of Jamaica, through the Ministry of Transport and Mining, initiated the process of implementing a public-private partnership to identify a private sector operator with proven experience in the aviation sector to operate, develop, and maintain Norman Manley under a long-term concession. And some will recall that this process has taken years to get us here. We have had many stops and many starts, but thank God we are here today. Subsequently, GAP was announced on September 11th as the preferred bidder for the Norman Manley concession, with commercial close sold expected by the third quarter of this financial year. As Minister with responsibility for transportation, I am pleased with the successful outcome of this PPP and commend the executions for the transparency and equity of the process. They did so with the utmost professionalism, accountability, and integrity. I must pause to commend P.B. Scott and the enterprise team, the DBJ, and the full team of lawyers. They have made Jamaica proud. They have negotiated hard, they have stuck to their guns, and they failed just a little bit because we were hopeful that we would have gotten more of the revenue share. The Prime Minister is of the view that the assets of Jamaica should be exploited for the people of Jamaica. We are in the business of inviting investors to partner with us. We are not in the business of giving away our assets. So PB, we are a little disappointed that we didn't get a little more. But we are happy as it is. The selection of GAP as the preferred bidder for Norman Manley's concession marks a significant step towards Jamaica scoring another successful PPP. This too comes on the heels of the completion of the Kingston Container Terminal and the North-South Highway. The Norman Manley PPP affirms the government's commitment to facilitating private sector investment to develop world-class infrastructure, which is a critical element of the government's economic growth strategy. And that strategy, I must say, is working. It is evident that PPPs are an excellent vehicle for unlocking the value of assets, reducing debt, and mobilizing local and foreign direct investment in our economy. The government has successfully supported the privatization of over 20 of our assets since 2009, with the most recent being the privatization of Cayman Track Limited, Petcom, and the Kingston Container Terminal. Under the terms of the Norman Manley Concession Agreement, the government of Jamaica will receive a guaranteed percentage of the gross revenues earned at Norman Manley. GAP will be responsible for operating and maintaining the airport, improving the efficiency of both land and airside operations, and financing and completing the planned modernization program. This will include an agreed capital works program to be completed within the first 36 months of the concession agreement, aimed at expanding and upgrading the facilities at the airport. GAP has importantly committed to use Jamaican businesses and suppliers and contractors in this venture, and I want to commend GAP for that commitment to Jamaican businesses. These mandatory works are estimated to cost over US $110 million at a minimum and are clearly outlined in the agreement. Having transferred the responsibility to finance and operate Norman Manley to GAP, the Airports Authority of Jamaica can now focus its resources on managing the Sangster and Norman Manley concessions, as well as the government's other airports and aerodromes. And soon, very soon, exciting news will be announced about the upgrading of some of our aerodromes. The government is committed to general aviation and its expansion. When I was a child, we had 52 active aerodromes in Jamaica. Today we have 8, and we are determined to do something about it. Mr. Reynolds needs somewhere to park his plane. This route presents the right mix of strategies to achieve our objectives of an even greater contribution by the sector to national development, while affording a reasonable return on investment for our partners in this venture. Partners, welcome to Jamaica and welcome to this new journey on the road to prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And like you, we are delighted that we have been able to attract a premier concessionaire of the caliber and reputation of GAP that will be operating the Norman Manley International Airport. And just to say, Minister, you mentioned about the percentage, but I think when the facts are made public, I think it will show that on a percentage basis, this was probably one of our most successful PPPs that we have done to date. But as I said, we await the announcement of those figures. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is no stranger to the process. He is the President and the CEO of the Airports Authority of Jamaica, which, along with us at the DBJ, provided the day-to-day support to the enterprise team as we navigated the journey towards identifying potential bidders, inviting and considering bids, and eventually deciding on the concessionaire for the NMIA. Please welcome to the podium Mr. Audley Dietrich.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Milverton Reynolds, CEO, Managing Director of the Development Bank of Jamaica, Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica and Minister of the Economic Growth and Job Creation, Honorable Robert Montague, Minister of Transport and Mining, ambassadors from the Canadian Embassy, and Mexico, other government ministers and diplomats in attendance, Mrs. Audrey Sewell, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Dr. Alwyn Hales, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Transport and Mining, Honorable William Billy Shaguri, Chairman of the AAJ Board, Mr. Newlin Seaton, Chairman of the NMIAL Board, other members of the AAJ and NMIAL Boards, Mr. Paul B. Scott, Chairman of the NMI Enterprise Team, Mr. Carlos Ram, Director of GAP, on hand today, and of course Mr. Raul Revuelta, CEO of GAP, other members of the GAP team, other invited guests. It is indeed a very good morning, so I'm saying good morning. I'm here to bring remarks on behalf of the Airports Authority of Jamaica, owner of NMIA Airports Limited, the operator of NMIA Airport, which is the subject of this morning's proceedings. AAJ also operates the Ian Fleming International Airport and the 3 domestic aerodromes, and monitors as well the PPP concession of the Sangster International Airport operated by MBJ Airports Limited. And in fact, GAP also has a major stake in that concession. Globally, public-private partnerships has been a major driver of public infrastructure development and operation. Historically, however, the focus of PPPs was mainly in the development such as roads, rails, utilities, and so on. Airport PPPs is a more recent phenomenon, actually just over 30 years old, coinciding incidentally with the birth of the Airports Council International, the lobby organization for airports. Airports are by nature very capital-intensive facilities, and PPPs became the tool that unlocks the capital development capacity required in terms of funding, technical competence, and commercial operating imperatives, such as efficiency and profitability. Regionally, while airport PPPs are very popular in Latin America, it is not so general in the Caribbean, Jamaica, of course, being one key exception. In the mid-1990s, the GOJ embarked on a program of privatization via the PPP model, instead of outright sale of its key national infrastructure assets. This was led by the highway program in the late 1990s, then the airports in the 2000s, with SIA being the lead, and more recently, the KCT in 2015. The SIA privatization through MBJ Airports Limited had proven to be a tremendous success for the GOJ and the AAJ, the concessionaire, and the stakeholders. This in terms of the capital infrastructure improvements that they have made to the facility, financial returns to the GOJ and AAJ, and of course the concessionaires and the stakeholders. Also, this airport by its performance has received multiple service quality awards over the years. The success of the MBJ concession has also become a reference point for PPP models in the region and the world, such that the Caribbean Development Bank included the SIA PPP as a case study in its 2014 report on PPPs in the Caribbean. So, NMIA. Following the successful privatization of SIA, the next task was to embark on a similar process for NMIA. However, the more immediate imperative was to commence the capital development program in similar fashion to that of SIA, as required by the economic regulations framework established for both airports. Upon completion of the NMIA CDP, the PPP program was launched for NMIA in 2012. The IFC was appointed as lead advisors to the government, and the DBJ was appointed as co-advisors and secretariat. The transaction took several stages, which culminated in a final bid return date in 2015. However, as we all know today, with 5 pre-qualified applicants participating in the bidding process at that time, no bids were received. We knew there were a few niggling issues with the bidders, which the bidders had with the transaction structure, such as capital program scope, the upfront payment amounts required, etc. But we also learned of issues within some of their own consortia that caused them not to bid. What was certain, however, is their expressed interest in the transaction, and this was borne out in the subsequent launch of the process in 2016, where all 5 returned either wholly or as part of other consortia. The government changed in 2016 and appointed a new enterprise team that same year in June, under the chairmanship of business mogul Paul B. Scott. The new enterprise team immediately set about revising and repackaging the transaction, taking into consideration the issues that were revealed from the first launch. The attractiveness of the transaction was also buoyed by the outcome of a major rate increase obtained from the JCAA in 2015, which shored up the financial performance of NMIA. The transaction was therefore relaunched in November 2016 with a keenly crafted transaction teaser published on major infrastructure investment journals and also by the ACI and ASILAC websites, a courtesy to Jamaica being a member of that organization. The team of IFC, AAJ, DBJ then hit the road to promote the newly energized transaction, starting with the Global Airport Development Conference in Portugal in November 2016. The reception and feedback from the GAD conference spurred our belief that the transaction was headed for success. The first proof of this success came in the pre-qualification process, which saw 9 applications received in April 2017, of which 8 qualified to bid for NMIA. The pre-qualified applicants included major airport operators from South Africa, Europe, the Caribbean, Africa, and Asia. The bidding stage was launched in June 2017, and the high point was the bidders' conference and tours, which took place at NMIA in September 2017. The following month, into early 2018, saw the due diligence process and the negotiation process being conducted. This was where, as they say, the rubber hits the road, and where the bidders sought to massacre the draft concession agreement which was presented to them in the quest to get the best deal. We surrendered on many requests, but stood our ground on many as well. During this rigorous process, 3 bidders exited the stage for reasons peculiar to their own consortium. The negotiation process culminated with the final bid document in May 2018 being submitted to the bidders. On the final bid closing date of July 20, 2018, 3 bids were received. Govt, who is here today, Punta Cana out of the Dominican Republic, and Aegis out of France. The bid evaluation process commenced in earnest with the legal, technical, and financial evaluations taken in that order. I must pause here to commend the work of the evaluation teams, the legal, technical, and financial teams, for the rigor and time expended, long days and nights to conduct these evaluations, especially given the competitiveness and aggressiveness of the bids. In the end, Govt emerged the winning bidder with a transaction value in excess of US $2 billion to the AAJ, and I dare say the country. Thank you. With this deal now being consummated by today's signing ceremony, I will draw on the song by the late Sam Cooke, which says, "It's been a long time coming, but I know the change would come." Make that success. The lessons learned from this process is that in the pursuit of PPP success, one should not rush, but rather take the time to get it right. Getting it right took a whole team drawn from several organizations and MDAs. To these persons, recognition and commendations are in order. I refer to the enterprise team and the mission-driven chairman, P.B. Scott, the IFC and DBJ teams, the evaluation teams, the board of AAJ and its chairman, Honorable Billy Shaguri, the board of NMIL and its cooperative chairman, Mr. Neil Seaton. From now, therefore, the next steps are that when we listen to the feedback from the public regarding our privatization of SSIA and now NMIA, we still have a task to debunk the commonly held view, I call it the myth, that SIA has been sold and we are about to sell NMIA. We will work more at enlightening the public that PPPs are not sellouts, but that they represent the most effective way to develop infrastructure and operate them efficiently and profitably. AAJ will now embark on its expanded role as airports concession administrator, while charting the course for airports and aviation development in the country. Jamaica was recently rated 4th in Latin America and the Caribbean for PPP programs by the Inter-American Development Bank, and the SIA PPP, no doubt, was a contributing factor to that rating. NMIA, this NMIA PPP transaction, ladies and gentlemen, is now slated to raise the bar of our PPP success to new heights. Thank you.
Thank you, El Presidente of the Airports Authority, for that really very comprehensive explanation of the entire process that took place, that resulted in us being here today with the successful bidder. It really has been a transparent, professional process, as Audley mentioned, involving consultations right across the board. And I'm happy to see that we have the CEO of the Fair Trading Corporation here with us today, Mr. David Miller, who was a part of the consultation, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard me mention previously of the commitment of Jamaica to the whole concept and actualization of public-private partnerships. Our Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, has time and time again articulated his vision for Jamaica as a major player in the global marketplace at every level. I now invite Prime Minister Holness to address us.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you to forgive my raspy voice. I had to attend a water conference and I got wet. So. Thank you, Milverton, for moderating this ceremony. Of course, we all know Milverton is the managing director of the Development Bank of Jamaica, that has the responsibility for managing divestments across all government agencies. And I dare say the DBJ has been doing a wonderful job. And the Honorable Robert Montague, Minister of Transport and Mining, and other colleagues in the cabinet who may be here. Mr. Raul Reveleta Muslim. Did I get it right? CEO and other representatives of Grupo Aeroportuario del Pacifico. Of course, that's the only time you'll hear that. GAP will be our Mexican investment partners, but I choose to say our friends. Ambassador of the United Mexican States, His Excellency Juan Jose Gonzalez Mejías. Her Excellency, my friend, Laurie Peters, the Canadian High Commissioner, Mrs. Audrey Sewell, and Milverton referred to her as his boss. Well, she's really the boss of everyone. Permanent Secretary in the, and pay close attention to this, Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister and in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. my friend Custos, the Honorable William Shiguri, Board Chairman of the Airports Authority of Jamaica. Now you have a new name, PB, Mogul. You're not going to leave that down because everybody's going to see you on the road and say, Mogul. Mr. Paul B. Scott, Chairman of the Norman Manley International Airport Enterprise Team, but the substantive role is as Chairman of the DBJ. Mr. Audley Diedrich, President of the Airports Authority of Jamaica, specially invited representatives of ministries and public agencies, media representatives, ladies and gentlemen. It is, as everyone is saying, a good morning. I am truly happy. The selection of GAP as the preferred bidder for the Norman Manley International Airport concession marks a significant step towards Jamaica scoring another successful public-private partnership deal. This, of course, coming on the heels of the completion of the Kingston Container Terminal PPP in June 2016 and the North-South Highway PPP in 2012. The NMIA PPP affirms the government's commitment to facilitating private sector investment to develop world-class infrastructure. This investment modality is without doubt a critical element of the government's economic growth strategy. It is evident that PPPs are excellent vehicles for unlocking the value of assets, reducing debt, and mobilizing local and foreign investment in our economy. The successful outcome of this PPP attests to the transparency and equity of the process, as well as the professionalism, accountability, and integrity of all stakeholders involved. Now, GAP is no stranger to Jamaica, and GAP is no stranger to the airport business. My understanding is that you would now have 12 international airports under your management. This would be number 13. Number 14, well, there you go. Some of them you have 50-year concessions. So it is important that the Jamaican public understands that the people who will be managing the airports are airport specialists. They are not people who are fly-by-night, as we say here. These are people who eat, sleep, breathe airports. And when we strip away the emotion, as the CEO of the Airports Authority says, the myths around the ownership of assets, the government of Jamaica retains the ownership of the asset. We own it. But we have to face the fact that the government of Jamaica was never and probably will never be specialists in the management of airports. And at the end of the day, what I believe the public wants more than anything else is a well-managed facility that delivers a service efficiently and at an affordable price point. So we have to keep engaging the public, Minister, because there is a short-sighted view of ownership which actually closes out, you use the term exploitation, I use the term, the full utilization of the value of the asset. That if you use ownership to separate a resource, an asset, from the best persons who can utilize it, you're actually limiting your own value. And what the PPP process does is to allow the resources that we have to be paired with the skills, the competencies that can best unlock the value. And then we share in a bigger value. Because what will happen as a result of this PPP for the Jamaican people? We are all gathered here, and the Jamaican people are observers to this process. And I want to bring the Jamaican people into this process, not as observers, but as beneficiaries, as part of the process itself. Because how the people of Jamaica will benefit is that now we will be able to expand the runway of the airport. An infrastructure investment that the government itself could not undertake. Or if it did, it would have probably had to sacrifice schools, roads, hospitals, security, and other important social and economic expenditure. But allowing the competent skills to take over the asset, to manage the asset, and to take the risk unlocks a new world of opportunity for our airport. Now we can possibly take in more flights. Well, definitely you will have to take in more flights. The people of Jamaica benefited another way. Practically every agency that the government runs creates what is called a fiscal risk. An agency could run into problems. It could run up debt. And ultimately, who would be responsible for that? It's you, the people of Jamaica. Which we have seen happen with several public enterprises. Again, because government sometimes are not the best people to provide some of the services that these enterprises are providing. But to hold on to the emotion, governments are sometimes very afraid to enter upon a conversation about who best should run the enterprise and provide the service. And to hold on to that emotion, we end up paying for that in the national debt. So, what we're seeing happening now is that the government is taking a far more enlightened approach and having not the fear anymore to engage the public in saying that there is a new pathway for growth in Jamaica if we are willing to unlock and unleash the assets and have them paired with the right competencies. And that's what this process is. So we will be seeing significant investments in the Norman Manley International Airport. That's one benefit. But the second benefit is that it becomes less of a risk to the government. Oh, truly, the NMIA at this stage is profitable. The airport's authority gets a significant cash flow. But you're going to get more. The government of Jamaica is going to get more. And we're going to get the infrastructure expansion. But more than that, having these series of successful public-private partnerships is placing Jamaica in the sight of international investment. The world is looking on and saying, you know, Jamaica is ranked 4th in Latin America in PPPs. They must be doing something right. It means that they have executed public-private partnerships that have not been questioned. The integrity of the process has been beyond reproach. The process has been fair and transparent, that we have engaged specialists and technical experts like the IFC, who have been our transaction advisors. We have sought to benchmark and use as our standards international practice. So very soon, Jamaica, well, we are already being approached and seen as a destination for greater investment. Now, it is not just the airport that can become a PPP. There are many projects in Jamaica that the government itself will not be able to find the investment to do. But by virtue of the good capital that we're building in executing successful PPPs, we will have more investments. And let me say it clearly, we want to see our local investment community step up to the plate. We believe we have investors here who can compete with international investors and win. And I'm using this platform to encourage our local investors to step up to the plate as well. As you would have seen, I have abandoned my presentation, just to make sure that I haven't left anything out that's important to be said. There are some other opportunities that will come on stream, not necessarily PPPs, but other divestments. And you will be hearing more about that. Certainly, if our mogul speaks, he might want to give a hint as to what may come. But generally, however, the government of Jamaica is invested in creating what we like to call the ownership economy. The government mustn't own the economy. The government wants the people of Jamaica to own the economy and to participate in the ownership of the economy. The role of government, therefore, I mean, my last point, which I want to diplomatically and delicately address, the role of government is to provide a strong regulatory framework. This PPP is guided by a concession agreement. And from my own review of it, it is a very well scripted, documented agreement. And it is binding. And the government of Jamaica will be vigilant to ensure that all terms of the agreement are met. On our side, we will be faithful to what we have agreed to. And I have no doubt that our friends who will now be operating the Norman Manley International Airport will proceed in good faith with the agreement. But were that not to happen, God forbid, the government will follow the legal process and the regulatory process to enforce. And that is an assurance that we give to the people of Jamaica. So whether the consideration is that it is monopolistic or it is operating in a way that is inimical to the general public, these are considerations that are mitigated by the existence of a binding agreement with a vigilant government and a vigilant prime minister who will ensure that the public's interest is preserved. So, with those few remarks, I want to again say how pleased we are that we have been able to execute this major PPP. Let's face it, we tried before, and we were not successful at that time. We obviously came back, we recalibrated, We were far more practical in what we put forward to the market, and it resulted in a highly contested PPP. And I believe the level of interest that was shown is indicative of the interest in Jamaica generally. I don't need to mention the stock exchange and the buzz that is creating around Jamaica. So all in all, I think it is a win-win. The public has won in this PPP. I'm certain when the public understands the revenue share, the percentage revenue share, which is, I would say, above normal, but I quickly support what the minister has said. It should be more. That the public will be reasonable and say, yes, this is a good deal. We have struck a good deal on behalf of the people of Jamaica. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. You know, ladies and gentlemen, leadership and direction are key to success in whatever undertaking. And Prime Minister, your clarity on the value of PPPs to growth and development is really very, very invaluable. I just want to mention a little item here. You know, the Prime Minister recently attended the UN United Nations annual general meetings, and from all the reports he gave an amazing presentation. And I'm advised that coming out, and you know, he spoke on climate change, one of the topics that he has been speaking on, and how it affects small nation states like Jamaica. And for his hard work, he has now been appointed. The UN has appointed him as the champion for climate change, and we want to congratulate you, Prime Minister. Yeah, sorry? That's right. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, as we sign this concession agreement, all eyes naturally are on Govt. And as you've heard, Govt is a Mexican company with 50-year concessions to operate and maintain and develop some 13 international airports in Mexico. NMIA is going to be the 14th. Govt, of course, as has been said, is no stranger to Jamaica. As through a subsidiary company, they are already operating the award-winning Sangster International Airport in Montego Bay. So I think it is now fitting for us to welcome Mr. Raul Revuelta, the CEO of Govt, to address us. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. The Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, Honorable Robert Montague, Minister of Transportation and Mining, Mr. Milton Reynolds, Managing Director of the Development Bank of Jamaica, Mr. Ole Dijic, President of Airports Authority of Jamaica, dear authorities, dear media, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. For sure, it's a good morning. On behalf of Grupo Aeroportuario del Pacífico, GAP, I would like, it's going to be easier for everybody to talk about GAP. I would like to express our joy and gratitude to be granted as the concessionary for the operation, maintenance, development, and expansion of the Norman Manley International Airport. You can be sure that the group that I represent will contribute to the achievement of Jamaica 2030 vision, transform the country in the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. GAP is a Mexican corporation that operates 13 international airports in the large metropolitan areas, industrial centers, and world-class leisure destinations on Mexico and Jamaica, And in the last 20 years, Govt has invested over $1.2 billion US dollars in the airports, positioning itself as one of the fastest growing airports groups of its size in the world. During 2017, the airports of Govt managed 40.7 million passengers. As you know, in April of 2015, Govt assumed an operational control on the Sangster International Airport in Montego Bay, investing over 191 million US dollars to acquire a 74.5% stock in the airport. This was the largest investment of the group outside Mexico. This investment showed Govt's confidence in the long-term potential of the Jamaican economy and our trust on the government policies. Govt is a listed company in the New York Stock Exchange and the Mexican Stock Exchange since 2006. As such, it is highly regulated and supervised by the Security and Exchange Commission in the US and by the National Banking and Security Commission in Mexico. Govt is committed to ensure that its air facility comply with international safety standards, and in its sense, we are the airport group with the largest number of certified airports in Mexico. We are pioneer in the implementation of the safety management system in our airports. As the new operator of the Norman Manley International, we will follow 7 guiding principles. First, Govt has developed a culture committed to customer service, looking to provide passengers comfort, safe and secure facilities. We will analyze the current capacity of the airport's terminal building. We will pay attention to infrastructure and equipment to fulfill passengers' needs. Specifically, we will try to shorten the waiting times in the arrivals in coordination with the immigration and custom authorities. Second, the airport industry is one of the most dynamic in the incorporation of new technologies into its procedures, technologies, and technology is also the driver for the economy development of the airport. At the Norman Manley Airport, we will implement an operational system that will provide an excellent support to control the commercial aprons, passenger statics, slots, and quality service, and we will monitor our services through quality model systems. Third, Govt manages airports based on establishing strong partnerships with airport owners, the passengers, the airlines, the business developer, as well as with other members in their transportation industry. We acknowledge that the key partner in this concession agreement is the government of Jamaica. We will collaborate with the government of Jamaica to identify tourist development opportunities and possible investors from Mexico, as well as explore potential growth for new resorts, tourist facilities, and timeshare business in parts of the country where the connectivity provided by the Kingston Airport could be a catalyst. Fourth, our airport's marketing plan focuses on increasing connection from Norman Manley airports, feeding the principal hubs in the main destination markets of the US and Canada, and exploring new opportunities worldwide. Increasing Kingston connectivity will be our main goal. Fifth, I'm proud to lead a very strong management team that supports the efforts of our airport to increase route development, and we also have the extraordinary expertise coming from our strategic partner, AENA. AENA is the world's largest airport operator. Our central marketing teams enjoys long-lasting relationship with the main airlines in the US, Canada, Spain, and the rest of Europe companies. Furthermore, we will devote special attention to promoting routes between CARICOM members countries in order to promote economic activity between the islands in the region. Sixth, as a leading airport operator with presence in Mexico and in Jamaica, Govt business unique knowledge and resources will be boost the operation of Kingston's and support development of its team. Pursuant to the technical agreement service, GAP will implement management and consulting services to improve the airport performance. Additionally, GAP will share our broad range of training programs with local workers and will bring normally outstanding employees to be training in Mexico and in Spain. I mean, our idea will be bring the best of the Jamaican talent to Mexico and to Spain and bring it back with all this expertise on airports. So we will begin that procedure for look for the best professionals on the coming months. Our idea is that this professional will spend at least 1 year in Mexico preparing for comeback for Jamaica. I mean, at the end of the day, we really believe on the talent of the Jamaican people, and we believe that all the people that will run the airports in the medium and long term will be Jamaican professionals. 7th, sustainability and the preservation of the environment are the center of our operations. We permanently map the carbon footprint of our process to reduce as much as possible CO2 emissions and pay particular attention to all water-related issues. GAP will observe in this Jamaican airport the best international practices, and we will adhere strictly on local regulation. Environmental managing GAP is not limited to its own activities. We establish agreements with the different operators and service providers at airports to make their activities sustainable too. For instance, 2 of our airports, Cabo and Vallarta, was the first 2 airports in all Latin America to be certified as environmental care airports in terms of the ASI, of the Airports International Council. So it's one of our key parts to work really close to the community, with the government, and take care of the environment. Also, GAP is well aware of the social importance of airports and their contributions to economic growth. We understand that an airport is a key asset for the country. And to conclude, GAP commitments will be high connectivity, open new markets, first-class facility, operational efficiency, sustainability, and for sure, human resources empowerment. Our group wants to become key partner of the government of Jamaica. And I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the authorities and the enterprise team for the transparency, fairness, and competitiveness of the entire process. The Norman Manley Airport is at the center of our GAP international business and strategy. We put our hearts and soul in this process, and we will remember this day with pride and honor. We look for a solid and long-lasting relationship with the government of Jamaica and be sure that we will work with passion for the transformation of the airport and into an efficient and modern getaway for Kingston. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Raul. I hope you don't mind me calling you by your first name. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the point where, well, this is really why we're here this morning, the signing of the concession agreement for the Norman Manley International Airport. The signing is going to be done by the CEOs of both of NMIA and GAP. And Prime Minister, I'm going to invite yourself and Minister Montague and Mr. Scott, the chairman of the enterprise team, if you could witness the signing that takes place. We want you in the photo ops. So I am going to, do I hand this over now to Trevor? Who is going to, okay, yes, the signing is going to take place here. So we're right. Right. So can we ask, I think we would want the Prime Minister to stand to witness the, and Minister Montague. Right? Yes, yes, PM, they want you. Okay, we leave you. Let's sign away. Okay. So Trevor, are we done now?
Not yet.
No. Oh, okay. Because the real, okay, the minister, yes, the real signature. The signature that matters. So Trevor, we're good now. And Topaz, we're good. Okay. No. What I would like is to thank everyone else except the CEO of GAP and the Airports Authority. I would also want the Prime Minister, Minister Montague, and Chairman Scott to remain, and for the two CEOs to shake hands with an exchange. So would you stand, please? And then if everybody else could go back to their seats, thanking you very much. The CEO. I know. Yes, you're going to hand over the book. And it's a book that we were printing, I think, up to 1 o'clock this morning. So yes. And I think the Mexican ambassador, you can, yes. Can you please look to the camera with your best smile, please? Thank you. Thank you. Yes, with the Prime Minister, absolutely. Well, would okay. I know what you're going to do. The man rule. Yes. Thank you. Let us come. Very good. Gentlemen, I know you. Can I ask you please to take your seats? Oh. Okay, can I ask you now, please? I've tried 3 times. Okay, yes. Thank you. I have been a little bit remiss, actually. I should have recognized the CEO of PICA, the Passport Immigration Citizens Association, Mr. Andrew Winter, who is actually here. Mr. Winter, we are very happy to have you, sir. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. You heard previously of the enterprise team and its work in marshalling the process of this PPP for the NMIA. I want to now invite the chairman of the enterprise team, the chairman of the DBJ, and let me just explain, the chairman of the DBJ is my immediate boss. Mrs. Sewell is my ultimate boss. So I now invite Mr. P.B. Scott to close this morning proceedings. Please welcome Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Good morning, everybody. Please forgive me if I skip the formalities of so many esteemed people here this morning. It would take a very long time. I just want to say, phew, this process took a very long time. And today we're standing here and we're at the end of the process and the beginning of a relationship. In order for this process to have been as successful as it was, it involved many, many people from different organizations throughout Jamaica and actually throughout the globe. And I think it's very important that I thank all of them today, this morning. First of all, I would like to thank the government of Jamaica and the leadership of the government of Jamaica for giving direction, clear direction in policy in order to achieve this. It's very difficult to do PPPs without clear objectives and leadership. So I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank the former Minister of Transport, Minister Henry, who worked very hard on this as well as Mr. Montague, who, congratulations, sir. You have overseen this great, great transaction. Thank you. I'm always amazed when I'm working at the Development Bank of Jamaica because the individuals there are absolutely fantastic. And I would really like to thank all the people at the Development Bank of Jamaica who worked tirelessly, not just for the last 2 years, but the last 4 years. And I think it would be amiss to not thank the previous enterprise team, because quite often when one's eating a really enjoyable omelette, you forget how many eggs need to be broken in order to make it. And hindsight is something that is very important. And I think we learned from the previous process. And I think we're learning from all the processes of PPPs. And Jamaica is getting better and better at this process. PPPs are incredibly important for Jamaica. And the Development Bank of Jamaica, as well as many organizations in the government, are becoming more attuned to what needs to happen, and I believe we're going to get better and better. So I'd like to thank the Airports Authority of Jamaica. They, like the DBJ, have incredible executives. Audley, you lead a great team, and your team was committed and worked extremely hard with the DBJ team in delivering this concession agreement. This concession agreement is an agreement that has a lot of protections for the government of Jamaica and the people of Jamaica. And it is a framework in which a partnership will excel for the next 25 years. A partnership in which GAP will engage in local Jamaican businesses who are going to prosper within the framework of that agreement. And we'll see the development of that airport to a completely different level that any one of us here in Jamaica right now can imagine what it's going to be like in 5 years' time. I am extremely excited as a citizen of Jamaica and as a user of that airport to be a future customer of Gap, and I know the spin-offs of having a first-rate airport in Jamaica, not just for us Jamaicans, because 1.6 million passengers are friends and family that go through Norman Manley, but what people really need to understand and what you can bring to this partnership is that Jamaica is an island, and it's in a very important geographical position. And when you bring connections to that island, and when you make that airport a hub, it brings Jamaica into the lives of people that would not necessarily be connected to Jamaica. So it's incredibly important what you're going to do, and we very much look forward to that. I'd like to thank the Attorney General Office. In order to deliver such a document, they had to go through many, many versions of that document, prepare it, and work with AAJ and also DBJ. So thank you for the hard work that you put in over the last 4 years. Thank you. As well as our outside team, Trevor Patterson, Jeed, you all did a tremendous job. Global Affairs for Canada, thank you for the support. You have been there from the beginning, and we really appreciate the support. Thank you. The European Investment Bank, who have been part of the process for the development of Norman Manley, thank you for working with us throughout this process. And of course, the IFC. The IFC have worked tirelessly. They've been very committed, and they've brought a level of professionalism and benchmarking for us as an organization as well that I believe has been integral to us delivering a very transparent and great process for all the bidders. So thank you so much for that. The Civil Aviation Authority, as well as the Fair Trading Commission, thank you very much for working with us on this transaction. So as you can see, there's a lot that goes into creating a good PPP. Lots of sections of different aspects of government. And while the end result is the legal document there and hopefully a very prosperous partnership, it takes a lot of work to make it happen. But at the Development Bank of Jamaica, we are absolutely committed to be able to deliver transparent, efficient processes for PPPs. And while it's exciting to hear that we're fourth in Latin America, being benchmarked, Jamaica doesn't really consider fourth very highly. We're kind of used to, we want gold. We want number one. So all those partners that we've worked with, this is practice. We're going to get better, and we're going to get better at this process. And to investors, whether you were bidding on this process and you were not successful, I don't think any of you could complain about the process and how it was run. We are going to have a lot more opportunities for investors to come and invest in Jamaica, and for those local investment companies or businesses. Jamaica has a lot to offer. There will be lots of opportunity to invest in PPPs and privatization program. So we look forward to a lot more programs, investment in Jamaica, and I would like to thank everybody for their part in what I believe will be a very, very successful partnership. And Gap, I congratulate you. I think you could have paid a little bit more, just a little bit. But at the end of the day, I believe that both the government of Jamaica and yourselves have made a good deal, and I look forward to the benefits for the next 25 years. So thank you very much, and to everybody, thank you for coming, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. I just want to thank you all for being here this morning. You've been a wonderful audience. You need to give yourselves a round of applause. Really, really been very wonderful. Thank you. And just to remind you that I think we have refreshments that's going to be over there. Thank you very, very much. Have a wonderful rest of the day.